our body's respiratory system. Like any machinery, it consists of specialized components and requires a trigger to start functioning. Here, the components are the structures and tissues making up the lungs, as well as the various other respiratory organs connected to them. And to get this machine moving, we need the autonomic nervous system, our brain's unconscious control center for the vital functions. As the body prepares to take in oxygen-rich air, this system sends a signal to the muscles around your lungs, flattening the diaphragm and contracting the intercostal muscles between your ribs to create more space for the lungs to expand. Air then whooshes into your nose and mouth, through your trachea, and into the bronchi that split at the trachea's base, with one entering each lung. Like tree branches, these small tubes divide into thousands of tinier passages, called bronchioles. It's tempting to think of the lungs as huge balloons, but instead of being hollow, they're actually spongy inside, with the bronchioles running throughout the parenchyma tissue. At the end of each bronchiole is a little air sac called an alveolus, wrapped in capillaries full of red blood cells containing special proteins called hemoglobin. The air you've breathed in fills these sacs, causing the lungs to inflate. Here is where the vital exchange occurs. At this point, the capillaries are packed with carbon dioxide, and the air sacs are full of oxygen. But due to the basic process of diffusion, the molecules of each gas want to move to a place where there is a lower concentration of their kind. So as oxygen crosses over to the capillaries, the hemoglobin grabs it up, while the carbon dioxide is unloaded into the lungs. The oxygen-rich hemoglobin is then transported throughout the body via the bloodstream. But what do our lungs do with all that carbon dioxide? Exhale it, of course.
Smoking cigarettes is the leading cause of preventable diseases and deaths in the United States. Every year, smoking accounts for 480,000 deaths. This shakes out to be about 1 in 5 of all deaths in the United States. Although the prevalence of smoking has experienced a bit of a drop in recent years due to further education on the harmful effects of cigarettes, 13 out of every 100 adults between the ages of 18 and 24 still claim that they smoke. That age group has grown up with access to all sorts of information on the harmful effects of the industry, but still they choose to buy into it. Some interesting reports have shown that the likelihood of smoking decreases as education levels increase. This is likely due to increased access to things like health classes and similar resources. Research also suggests that the most common reasons given for why people smoke are that they simply have free time, they are using it for stress relief, or they just see other adults doing it and follow along with them. While smoking cigarettes has declined in popularity, vaping and the use of e-cigarettes has actually done quite the opposite. In the United States, vaping has become such a problem that it has quite literally been named an epidemic. Unfortunately, e-cigarettes were originally put on the market to help smokers quit their habits, but it's now gotten into the minds of kids and it's actually become a gateway for them. Between 2011 and 2015, the use of e-cigarettes experienced a 900% increase. Today, numbers are still on the rise. In the past month, almost 2 million high school students have used an e-cigarette of some kind. For the youth of America, e-cigarettes are deemed safer and easier to conceal than a traditional cigarette. Though they may be easier to conceal, studies have shown that they are not safer. Though there is no actual smoke that comes from them, the water vapor and chemicals that are involved are not meant to be handled by your lungs, just as smoke is not.
As we all know, there are many negative effects associated with smoking, including the fact that smokers are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop heart disease, 25 times more likely to develop lung cancer, and 2 to 4 times more likely to have a stroke. Smoking also can have negative impacts on bone health, giving someone weaker bones if they smoke. It can also have negative impacts on mouth health, including cavities, gum disease, and loss of teeth. Smoking cigarettes is also a cause of type 2 diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis. And last but not least, smoking is also highly addictive with cigarettes, including nicotine.
A healthy person's lungs versus a smoker's lungs is a tale of two different stories. When someone starts smoking, it starts a sharp decline of health risks and dangers. Just some basic effects that can be seen on smokers' lungs is general irritation. One of the first major effects that occurs is a slow buildup of thickness of mucus in the lungs. This mucus can get so thick through constant smoking that trying to cough it up won't work and it will get stuck. If this does occur, the stuck mucus is then prone for infections. Another major impact smoking has on the lungs is that there's a decrease of blood vessels in the lungs, resulting in less oxygen going out to the rest of the body. This can lead to a shock, which is from the body not getting enough oxygen to the tissues of the body. Another major health risk is the fact that smoking can slow down the cilia that you have in your lungs. When this occurs, it makes the cilia harder to clean the lungs. Not only does smoking slow down the cilia, but it also has the potential to kill the cilia, leaving fewer to clean it. It not only has the effects of the lungs on this way, but the diseases it can cause too are all extremely dangerous. Some examples of diseases smoking can lead to are cough, colds, wheezing, and asthma. Continuing to smoke despite all the health risks and warnings can lead to more severe fatal diseases such as pneumonia, emphysema, and lung cancer. Another disease it can cause is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. This is a disease that has many more diseases branching off it, such as chronic bronchitis. Some signs of COPD include a constant cough with phlegm and repeated occurrences of chest infections. One of the ways to slow down COPD is very simple: don't smoke.
Secondhand smoke is also one of the negative consequences associated with smoking. Some of the results of secondhand smoke include respiratory infections, ear infections, and the chance of more severe asthma attacks among infants and children. Secondhand smoke can also increase the risk of lung cancer, heart disease, and having a stroke for even people who don't smoke. Since 1964, cigarette consumption has been on the decline in the United States, largely due to the fact that there's been more public awareness on the negative effects associated with cigarettes. Another factor in this is also the change in cultural attitudes associated with cigarettes, including the incorporation of smoke-free zones in legislation. As of present day, there are 30 states with laws requiring restaurants and bars to be smoke-free zones.
Smoking also has a really negative effect on the environment. There's some things that you would definitely expect, like the fact that secondhand smoke contains more than 7,000 chemicals, so that has a huge effect on polluting the air. Also, third-hand smoke can affect the air quality also and builds up as toxins just in the environment around us, which is no good, and it ends up in landfills a lot of the times and contributing to just the toxins in our environment. And then there's also a huge littering factor, because about 75% of cigarette smokers admit to just discarding their cigarettes on the ground. And cigarettes and cigarette butts are the most common object littered on U.S. roads, making up about 38% of all collected litter, which is 1.69 billion pounds of littered cigarette waste every year. But then there's also some things that you might not expect that are also contributing to how cigarettes harm the environment, like the fact that growing tobacco and drying it is a huge cause of deforestation, because you have to level a field to grow tobacco in it, and then drying about 300 cigarettes, which is a carton and a half-ish, will kill one tree. So think of all the cigarettes that people smoke. That's a lot of trees being killed just to dry them out. Also, just the energy it takes to produce a cigarette. You have to shred the tobacco and prepare it and make the paper to roll it in, and then the actual production of the cigarette and the packaging and everything. So it's a lot of energy that goes into that. And then even more to transport it, because it's usually from kind of remote countries far away from us. And so it's a far way for them to be transported, and it creates a lot of carbon emissions. So there's a lot of harm done to the environment just from one box of cigarettes. So there are a lot of tools and methods that you can use to quit smoking. Most commonly, people think of the nicotine supplements, like nicotine patches or gum. They have inhalers and nasal sprays, and then also there's vaping. You can get medication prescribed, like I said before. Chantix is a popular one that you have to talk to your doctor to use. There's also a lot of counseling services available for people trying to quit smoking. A lot of self-help guides have been written, and there are so many online resources and support groups that you can join.